Hey there, guys. My name is Metro with One Legion TV, and today we are taking a look back at the Legion Summit. All right, for those of you who aren't aware, on Friday, June 10th, pretty early in the morning, they released a long list of things. A lot of people were like big press were allowed to interview select members of the Blizzard development team. Almost all the major developers got involved. There was a few hit or miss here and there, but a lot of overlap as well in terms of questioning, line of questioning. So I'm here to tell you guys a little bit about the summary, at least from my perspective, my interests. There's probably going to be some things I missed, so if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I think the things I'm going to discuss here prove that Legion is, without question, going to be the most receptive expansion ever. It may not be the most fun for you, but I don't see how you could ever argue after coming out of Warlords of Draenor that they aren't actually listening now. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. The main thing that they talked about here was raids and dungeons. So we'll start with raids, okay? I'm just going to go through these quickly as they come up, but summarize as we need to. So the first major announcement was that 3 tiers are indeed returning. If you're not aware, Warlords of Draenor was the first expansion to only have 2 raid tiers, meaning 2 full set raids. Highmall and Blackrock Foundry were indeed part of the same tier, even though it was hard to believe. The first raid was so much weaker than the second raid in that tier. Foundry had the set bonuses, it had actual bosses, and yeah, once you had the stuff from Foundry going back to Highmall, it was like a different tier, but they were indeed considered part of the same tier, okay? So this expansion will start with the Nightfall raid, the Nighthold, I think it's called. It's in Suramar City, and then before that, you'll have the Emerald Nightmare expansion, or the raid itself. All right, the raid is going to be opening sometime after launch. They said in the summit that they liked the way Highmall worked from Warlords of Draenor, which I did too. We had about 2.5 weeks. I guess maybe it was, I don't know. I don't think it would have been a half, but either way, yeah, we had, I think, 2 full weeks without any raids. That was plenty of time to level, plenty of time to start getting geared and prepared for raids, which I was definitely excited for. So I hope they'll do the same. I honestly wouldn't mind if it was 3 weeks. 3 weeks is even better if you ask me. The more time, the better. A month, maybe too much, but yeah, that's that. So the third tier is unannounced, but there is a second tier confirmed for patch 7.2. We're going to talk about patch cycles in a bit, but that's kind of a big deal. Obviously, having 3 tiers is, I think, a preference for a lot of people. Now, we're also, running the risk here of a longer expansion. A lot of people didn't seem to understand this in the past when they said, that they were going to do shorter expansions, quote unquote shorter expansions. Everybody thought that meant the content drought at the end of expansion would be gone. Now, obviously, that's ideal, but what they actually did was just eliminate a tier with Warlords of Draenor. So yes, it was a shorter expansion. A lot of people don't seem to understand that. It was indeed much shorter than previous expansions. So now I guess we're going back to longer expansions. That leads us into pacing. They openly acknowledge, quote unquote, that Blackrock Foundry came out too soon after Highmall, and that Hellfire Citadel came out too soon after that. Now, this is causing a lot of commentary on the idea of this. People are saying, well, only one of those can be true, right? Because if, I don't know, basically people think that what they were wanting here is like 2-month raid tiers. Now, we're going to talk about this here. I don't understand that. I don't like that. I don't think that's what they're thinking either, okay, to be honest. I think we're just going back to the way things were in MoP, guys, where it's going to be, the first expansion, or the first tier of the expansion is like 6 months, 6-ish. You're going to spend a lot of that time getting prepared, okay, especially with this like dual split raid for the tier. You're probably going to maybe even see it a little bit longer. I think what we had was about 2 months of Highmall and then 4 months of Foundry, which I didn't find was enough. I got almost nothing out of Highmall because, they really made Heroic a little bit too challenging in 5-man gear. They said they were going to make Heroic 5-man gear good enough for Heroic Highmall, and that was not the case whatsoever. So we had to do a lot of backtracking, and then by the time Foundry came out, people were the nonsense, quitting already because apparently the expansion was shit 2 months into it. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. So what I'd like to see from pacing is simply consistency. I do not want to see shorter raids, and I really hope they don't make raids shorter. I just want to make content and raids that is fulfilling for an entirety of the expansion. All right, that's the big deal. The end of the expansion is really the big issue. I personally have nothing to complain about in terms of long ends of the expansion because you get the beta, you get to play other games. Like I have time to do other things. I have time to do achievements, PvP things that I never do, you know, CM boosts, stuff like that. If I didn't have this long at the end of expansion, I would never have time for stuff like this. So all I want to see is consistency. I think a lot of people, hopefully you'll all agree with that. Shorter expansion, longer expansion, shorter raid cycle, whatever. Let's just be consistent. All right, from here on out, hopefully Blizzard agrees with that. So yeah, either way, we are going to be seeing 3 raid tiers. The first one is looking amazing so far. They're not going to be doing any Gul'dan testing on the beta. They also said that, so I'll just put that there. But that's kind of everything for the raids. I don't think I missed anything. They also kind of said that raid gear will still be the premium, even though dungeons will have similar item level from Mythic Plus. You're still only going to get trinkets and set bonuses, stuff like that from the raid itself. So now we'll move on to dungeons. The dungeon summary for this summit was actually really, really important. They're really trying to make this expansion all about dungeons, as you already know. A lot of the stuff that hopefully you've already heard about is a big deal, like the, first of all, 10 dungeons, whatever, like Mythic Plus, you know, the scaling item level, Titan Forge. These are all things that are really, really important for this expansion. So hopefully you guys already know this. This was not discussed at the summit, but it is very important to know. Now, the huge reveal, probably the biggest reveal of the entire thing was the 7.1 patch, all right? I will talk about that itself in a little bit, but the number one thing on that list was Mega Dungeon. This is a quote, all right? I'm quoting a quote, basically. People, I think developers did actually say Mega Dungeon, but yeah, so that kind of scatters the imagination. People are already talking about BRD level. I'm kind of thinking more like ZG, Karazhan, right? The raids themselves, you know, they weren't very large raids, but they would make a good sized dungeon if you ask me. You know, even the original ZG dungeon that came out, the one that came out in Cataclysm, that was a pretty decent sized dungeon. It's just the pacing was poor. So I think those like, you know, upper Blackrock Spire type dungeons, that was a pretty long dungeon for Warlords of Draenor compared to the other ones. So I could feasibly see that is what they're thinking, a longer dungeon, maybe one with multiple wings, a dungeon that is like an area that has 3 smaller dungeons in it, something like that. Either way, I think most people will agree that that is pretty satisfying. I don't know where it could be currently. There is an area, the Eye of Azhar area in on the beta is, you know, I guess that's where the current Eye of Azhar dungeon is meant to be, but you can't actually get there. So I mean, maybe there could be something there. Otherwise, I think it would have to be in Suramar unless they do open up a new continent, which I guess we can't rule out. They may open up a new continent. There's been some talks about the new continent. But yeah, so Mega Dungeon, guys, big deal. Just the fact that they're adding new dungeons, you know, people could argue, well, maybe it was just scrapped for launch, so they had to delay it. Maybe so, but either way, I think that's a really healthy thing for the game. Having more dungeons is content. Like, I feel like dungeons is the right content for most people. Raids require 20 people. A lot of time commitment. You can't really do them whenever you want. You can't really make progression whenever you want. At least with Mythic Plus, you could easily find 4 other players and get going. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that difficult. You may not be able to break world record times, but you'll still be able to do them, and they're always available. It's a little bit different than raids. So I think dungeons are the right focus for Warlords from going on from Warlords of Draenor. And now they also discussed about Mythic Plus, a little bit more about that. They talked about the item level, which I said earlier in the raid section is now confirmed that it will be equivalent to Mythic rating, the best gear in the video game, item level wise. So say 850 will come, well, that's definitely not right, but either way, say 900 is from both raids and dungeons. All right, Mythic Plus, the highest stuff you can get, will be equivalent to the highest raid item level you can get, but the usage of the gear will be slightly different. They said that there's almost nobody who is going to be able to get, say, full 900 from Mythic Plus. I guess, you know, I don't know how or why that's the case, but that's what they've said. I'm assuming it's because, you know, the gear is going to be more rare, the gear is going to be harder to obtain, you're not going to be able to get multiple pieces a week, and it's going to be something that's going to require a lot of effort. They also talked about legendaries within Mythic. If you guys aren't aware, dungeons apparently are one of the best places to get these legendaries. You can get them even from just heroics. You can get them from higher chance now in mythic. Apparently, maybe even mythic plus from the cache. And then, of course, the raids themselves can give them. But since dungeons are 100% repeatable, you can do all the mythics every week and then spam heroics. It seems like they're going to be the best place to get these, and that's going to keep them relevant. If you ask me, there's a lot of things that they're doing to keep dungeons relevant. I kind of like that. I really love dungeons. I love the idea of mythic and mythic plus. The name mythic plus a little bit awkward, but I guess as long as the functionality is good, I'm satisfied with that. So that's kind of the summary for dungeons. I really think we're going to see a very focal point of the expansion become dungeons. Alongside the world quest, I think these two things go really well hand in hand, and we should be able to see a nice long expansion list of features from those. Now, this was kind of the unsung hero, if you will, of the summit that was released today. I'm not really sure what to say about this. I know almost nothing about it, but social features were discussed. A guy who I've never even heard of before was talking about them. Very interesting. He says they are not ready currently. All right, he says that the people who made them, etc., are not satisfied. They're not ready. So we're probably going to see them in 7.1, which makes sense. Either that or 7.2, either fine. I guess I don't know anything about 7.1 or 7.2 yet, so it's hard to say which I would prefer. But what they did describe them as advanced social queuing for friends. Now, I'm going to tell you guys why I don't understand this and I don't like it at all. I'm sure I'm misunderstanding something here, but when you hear advanced social queuing for friends, all I think about is this perpetuation of a social aspect within our culture. Not even just video games, guys. Not even Blizzard, not even video games in general. I'm talking about all of our first world culture, okay? People think being social is talking to each other on Facebook or finding each other through realistic means and doing things together over that. I'm talking about overcoming challenges, guys, and becoming friends that way. All right, I'm not talking about your friends on Facebook playing with you. I'm talking about making social connections. All right, there's a very big difference if you ask me. So I don't understand this. I don't understand why they're trying to perpetuate you and your friends play together. Well, no, you should be wanting to make new friends. So I'm not really sure what this is or what it's going to look like. Obviously, I'm probably way off base by saying these comments, but if I'm not, then I am really concerned about these things because this is like a really big perpetuant here, if you ask me. Even, I don't know. There's just so much stigma behind this, so it's not proper to talk about here. But so they also discussed the Facebook thing. They're like, oh, the Facebook thing is going to be purely optional, which obviously it better well be. But the way I look at it, Facebook and that type of culture it's the opposite of social. Like I said, you get a friend request from somebody that you don't know, and you're immediately like, oh, they're Facebook stalking me, or they're doing, you don't want anything to do with them, You don't take the time to make a social connection with these people. It's just people you already know that you're communicating with, which is great. Like, I guess if you aren't somebody who communicates with them, then Facebook and these other social media things are great to communicate with them. But like when I'm talking about video game social atmosphere, I'm talking about, I started a guild back in Wrath of the Lich King. Okay, guys, so almost 8 years ago now. And I have made some of the strongest friendships I'll ever make. I'm talking about real life. I'm talking about friends and family, parents, everything. Some of the people I play this game with are closer friends with me than anybody else in the entire world. All right. And that is not because of Facebook. All right. That is not because of advanced social queuing for friends. It's because we had to overcome all of these complicated situations in this video game together. All right, we did them together, and that strengthened our social experience. Right, so whatever the usage is of this, I think they're going in the wrong direction. I think what they should be doing is fuck all this, to be honest. Forget all this and take out all these things like LFR and the queuing for, I guess, I understand for heroics, but they need to be funneling players into social experiences and high tenacity social experiences, not just Oh, I queued up for something. Here's other humans. Fuck these other humans. I'm kicking this one. You know what I mean? These are not high tenacity social experiment or experiences. You don't actually learn or grow as a group. You just see each other for the first time and the last time, and then that's it. What I would like to see is, 5-mans like we are with Mythic and Mythic Plus. You're going to have to actually fly there. You're going to have to actually coordinate yourself as a group and potentially, make some connections, which, like I said, is the best reason, the number one reason. I love World of Warcraft, guys. Love the game. Love everything about it. But the number one reason is because of the social connections I made, guys. If I didn't have these, if I didn't have this guild, if for some reason all of these people died or left or quit or hated me all of a sudden, I wouldn't play this game anymore. Like, there's nothing stronger than that for me. Literally nothing. Nothing stronger than that for me. So I think that is what people need to be focusing on. And if they can facilitate that in some way in the video game, then they should be doing it. I'm just really skeptical because Facebook, quote unquote, all that nonsense is just, that's not how you create friendships, man. You don't create friendships because somebody sees your picture and swipes right. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So yeah, that's going to be something that we talk about in 7.1. 7.1 is something we'll talk about here at the end. But next up is the pre-patch 7.0. We got one really interesting blurb about this. I'm just going to read this. This is a quote. The pre-expansion patch will contain things like class changes and the new transmog system. Let's break it down from there. So a lot of people, for some fucking reason, asked, is the new class change or transmog system coming with the pre-patch? Because they're idiots, I guess, and they never played the video game before. There was some like wording of some post that said like, when Legion launches the new transmog system. It's like, yes, the launch of Legion is patch 7.0, guys, all right? For those of you who are not aware of that. You've heard it from me, okay? The launch of Legion is 7.0. You just can't level until you actually, like, the expansion itself happens, okay? So, for all intents and purposes, everything that's coming in the game will be included in 7.0. Okay, next up. A couple weeks after its release, the Demon Hunters Broken Shore event and Demon Invasions will be unlocked. The Demon Invasions will get more intense as time goes on. So this is interesting. I expected the Demon Hunter stuff to come immediately with 7.0, but now that it's not, I think I like this better because 7.0 is going to be, obviously, we're still going to be raiding. We're still going to be farming Archimon mounts, farming Blackhand mounts, all these things that we've been doing anyway. And, things like challenge modes, all that will be gone. So this is a pretty important patch. It's important for now. Like, the pre-patch is usually almost as exciting as the actual launch because a lot changes and there's still a lot to do. So I think that's cool. I like Demon Hunters getting delayed a little bit, quote unquote delayed. But the Broken Shore event and Demon Invasions will be unlocked a couple weeks after. Now, what this tells me here, guys, is that we're in store either for, I don't know, it can go either way. What I expect is a long pre-patch. I think Ian said a while back that he expected it to be 6 to 8 weeks. Which, I guess if it's the 6th, then 2 weeks without Demon Hunters, 2 weeks with Demon Hunters and all the other stuff. And then each week, the Demon Invasion gets more intense. Now, I don't really know what that entails, but either way, I would like to see at least 2 months of a pre-patch. And if the game comes out August 28th or 30th, whatever, then it's got to be soon. All right, we got to get this thing going here. It's almost 2 months from now, so I don't know what they're going to do, to be honest. I guess realistically, a lot of people are looking at the first week of July is the 4th of July. It's like the 5th or something like that. It was a Tuesday. So I struggle to believe that they'll get it there. I wouldn't mind an earlier than that date as well. But either way, I just want to see this fulfilled properly because obviously Warlords of Draenor has definitely run its course. There's almost no interest in the actual content the game has currently. And I think we're all ready to move on. So Demon Hunters would be very cool to be able to do Hellfire Citadel as a Demon Hunter for a few weeks. I like that a lot. I was looking forward to that. Got 3 or 4 people in the guild who are looking to switch, so it would be cool to get them in, get some gear for them so they can actually level up. That's a big deal, guys. Having some gear going into the expansion would be amazing, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I think the pre-patch kind of gets teased here a bit, and I'm looking forward to hopefully a long one. Now we have some miscellaneous stuff here, okay? We're going to try to catch all on these last few points here, but the main ones were raids, obviously the 3-tier raid thing. Dungeons, the mega dungeon thing, that was massive. Those are like the main 2 things they announced. The social features, that being the 3rd major announcement. But I don't know. I don't have much interest in that. And then obviously the pre-patch discussion was kind of big too. But here are some other ones that kind of fall between the cracks. Mob style patches. All right. So they're talking about 7.1 being on the PTR that around the time Legion launches. Now I'm going to put this down on paper here. They said this with WoD as well. And it did not fucking happen. Not even close. Now, obviously 7.1 in WoD or 6.1 in WoD was a complete joke. No content paths added. It was just terrible. It was some cool achievements, some cool other things to do, but yeah, waste of time for the most part. So what they're talking about with mob style patches here is, if you remember from 5.1, the dominance offensive, I think it was called, right? It was the Horde versus Alliance situation in Crasserang Wilds. That was a big addition to the video game. So I think it's fair to say that if they add another zone with the mega dungeon, quote unquote, then we're going to have a really fulfilling patch 7.1. What I don't like is the fact that people are already talking about it being on the PTR around the time Legion launches. Guys, I don't know if you played the Legion beta, but I do not want to have to deal with worrying about the future when the present is still very hot. All right. The first month of Legion, I don't want to even think about anything other than Legion. I don't want to think about any other games. I don't want to think about 7.1. I don't want to think about anything else. I got a lot of work to do on my character, a lot of work on the artifact and on raid progression, learning the fights, teaching the fights, getting geared up for them, all these things. I don't have time for this. So I really hope they don't do this again. Like, I think, honestly, it being delayed last expansion and in MOP was a very good thing, because I don't know why you would want to try to... nobody's going to test it. Who the hell is going to test it? You know what I mean? But anyway, we'll see about that. Another thing that really stuck out to me, which caught me as incredibly harebrained, was no plans to change the legendary ring. I don't know what world you're living in. Whoever said that, I'm not even sure who said that. So I can't say for sure. But whoever said that, you are really not in touch with this video game, are you, man? That ring is retarded. It is retarded, like Iggy Azalea, man. Like, that thing is way too good, all right? It is unbelievably strong, and I don't give a shit what the stats are on it. The strength is the on use, all right? The damage you gain from it, and then the explosion after the damage is useful no matter what. You could be 100 and you could be 1,000, level 1,000, and that ring is still best in slot. Because the more damage you do when it's up, the more damage it explodes for. All right? So I don't know who the hell authorized that statement. Surely whoever said that must not know what they're talking about, because there is no fucking way that that ring can stay as is and won't be best in slot for this entire expansion. So hopefully that's not. That's a really disappointing thing to hear. Now, they also talked about new caster animations. They added new melee animations in Legion, if you aren't aware, which are actually really cool. I would definitely check out a video or check them out yourself. They are amazing, especially Warrior. Warrior feels really cool now. So new caster animations for, like, say like Fire Mage, something like that could be cool. They already added a lot of new textures and spell animations. So hopefully caster, like the way they cast and stuff, that'd be pretty cool to have. I'm looking forward to that. Now, 5-man attunements, they talked about this a little bit, which is kind of something that's on the fence for a lot of people. Basically just 5-mans. I was worried that they were going to talk about the Nighthold having an attunement, which may still happen, but I would be really surprised if they did that at this point. But either way, yeah, you do have to do Suramar to unlock the Archway and the Court of Stars, which are the two dungeons in Suramar. They also talked about those dungeons not giving adequate item level for time spent unlocking them, which I completely agree with. They said they're going to fix that, so that's cool. Either reduce the time spent unlocking them, which I think is the lazy way out, or simply make the gear better, which I would be more satisfied with, but then it might make them too good for Mythic. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, including the 7.1 mega dungeon. All right. Apparently will also have an attunement, so you guys can commiserate on that. Tell me what you think about that. 100 boosts. This was a pretty big one here. It's been discussed kind of heavily but never confirmed, but the 100 boost does indeed include up through the artifact. If you don't know what I'm talking about, they're calling it class challenge or something like that. You can basically make a tune, make a paladin, all right, like the old days. You play a paladin, you level him up. He's already 100, so you don't have to level anything. You go right through the Broken Shore area, and all the pre-Legion stuff, like the non-leveling stuff, and you go through your artifact. You can pick up the artifact, the class, order hall, all that, and then if you like the class, you have to pay some money to play it. So I guess you can do this with any class, which is pretty cool. You can pick up a mage, you never played a mage before, etc. So that's a really cool addition. I like that a lot. I think that's really the right way to go for these boosts, and I'm excited to see that. Now, also there's they're also talking about here additional like phasing or instances for the open world, which is a big deal. Like, so we're talking about server queues and population control. These are big additions, if you ask me. If this works half as well as they expect it to, I think this will be very good. You all probably remember the previous expansion's launch, and it was quite a mess. The queues were a mess, absolute disaster. They even lowered the caps on a lot of servers to prevent these weird phasing and instance issues that they were having. And if you were on the beta, you know that there was already a lot of weird phasing issues. So you got to believe that that was part of it. Now, one other thing that I want to bring up here is really how disjointed the summit was. This isn't a complaint or anything other than an observation, guys. But a lot of the things that were said were contradictory to each other. In fact, I can't remember who said these things, but I remember distinctly hearing, we have no plans to announce multiple tiers from one person. And then I think it was Ian who's like, oh yeah, we're going to have 3 tiers confirmed. So I'm a little bit worried about that. Hopefully that's just, inside stuff happening there. It's not that this is going to get cut. It's not that Ian wanted to make a splash by saying, oh, 3 tiers confirmed, you know what I mean? And then they're not actually happening. So obviously everything's still on the table here. But 7.1 is probably going to be pretty cool as long as it does include that big dungeon or whatever the mega stands for. It could also be that it's really difficult. It could also be that it's, the gate behind it is incredibly intensive. It's like something that you're going to spend hours doing, stuff like that. But I don't know. So that's everything from the Legion Summit that occurred on June 10th, early in the morning. If you guys have any questions about it or anything Legion related, make sure you check us out at One Legion TV. I'll personally answer any questions you guys have, so leave them in the comments. But otherwise, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.